So hello class, today we are going to discuss about the sternum, but before going into the sternum, let me first introduce with the thoracic cage or the rib cage as you say. So the rib cage is limited anteriorly by your sternum and in the side by the costal cartilages, which is connecting the sternum with the corresponding ribs. Posteriorly, if you can see, there is this thoracic vertebrae. The posteriorly it is formed by the thoracic vertebrae and the posterior part of the ribs. So as you can all see that the posteriorly the thoracic vertebrae has a concavity ventrally. Now what is the function of this rib cage? It will protect your very important vital organs, that is the lungs and the heart, right? About the sternum. Now basically sternum has three parts: the manubrium sterni, the body of the sternum, and the lower part, that is the xiphisternum or the xiphoid process. So the manubrium sterni is most important part. Why? Because it is quadrilateral in shape and it is thicker than the body and articulates with the first and the second costal cartilage as well as with the clavicle. This is important. Why? Because the sternum articulating with the clavicle forms a crossroad between the axial and the appendicular skeleton. Why? Because the clavicle bears the upper limb weight and the upper limb weight is thus transmitted to the sternum. So, talking about the other parts of the sternum. So, first of all, let's talk about the manubrium sterni. So, the manubrium sterni, this is the manubrium sterni. As I already told you, it is quadrilateral in shape, right? How can you identify that which is the anterior part of the manubrium and the posterior part of the manubrium? So, the anterior part of the manubrium has convexity side to side and concavity from above downwards, right? So side to side there is convexity and concavity from above downwards. This is the anterior surface of the manubrium sterni. The posterior surface of the manubrium sterni is basically somewhat flat, but it is somehow concave even, but not that concave as it is appreciated in the anterior part. So this is the anterior surface of the manubrium sterni and this is the posterior surface of the manubrium sterni. The posterior surface of the manubrium sterni is forming the anterior boundary of the superior mediastinum. Now talking about the anterior surface and the other parts of the manubrium. So it has basically the upper border, the lower border and the lateral borders, right? And the upper border, which is important. Upper border in the median plane, you can identify, even you can palpate in your own body, this part. This is your jugular notch or the sternal notch. So this is the sternal notch. Lateral to the sternal notch, you have an articular facet for the two clavicles, right? That is the clavicular articular facet. It articulates with the sternal end of the clavicle, forming a saddle variety of the sternoclavicular joint, right? Now going more laterally, as you can see, this part, in the lateral border, there is a facet for the costal cartilage. See, the sternum articulates with the costal cartilage. It does not articulate with the rib. Basically, the rib and the sternum gets articulated with the help of the costal cartilage. So over here, it will form which joint? The costo, not costo, it's chondrosternal joint. Mind well. Chondro means chondrocytes, means cartilage. So costal is a cartilage, costal cartilage. So over here it is forming which joint? Chondrosternal joint. And the same chondrocyte, that is the cartilage with the rib, forms the costochondral joint. So basically, if this is my manubrium, this is my sternum, this is my which joint? The chondrosternal joint. This is the costal cartilage. So this is my chondrosternal joint. And this one, the with the costal cartilage articulating with the rib, forms which joint? The costochondral joint. So this is very, very, very important. Mind well. So basically the sternum articulates with the costal cartilage. So the facet just beneath the facet for the clavicle, that is on the lateral border, is which is the first costal facet for the first costal cartilage, forming the costal sternal joint, which is the first chondrosternal joint for the first rib. Now the first chondrosternal joint is a secondary cartilaginous joint. Sorry, it's a primary cartilaginous joint. It is a primary cartilaginous joint, right? Now the manubrium articulates with the body of the sternum like this, right? And this part, this is the which joint? Manubriosternal joint, right? Now this joint is the secondary cartilaginous joint. Now there is only one that is a secondary cartilaginous, that is the manubriosternal joint. This manubriosternal is important. It forms which joint? The secondary cartilaginous joint. Now the first chondrosternal joint is the which joint? It is the primary cartilaginous joint, and the sternomanubrial joint, right, it is the secondary cartilaginous joint, right. Now the xiphisternal joint, this one, the lower end, again it is which joint? It is a primary cartilaginous joint, right. So sternum articulating with the first rib with the first sternochondral joint is which joint? It is the primary cartilaginous joint. Sternomanubrial, this one, this two, right, that is which joint? That is a secondary cartilaginous joint. And this one, the xiphisternum, is again a primary cartilaginous joint. So the first chondrosternal joint is the primary cartilaginous, and the rest of the chondrosternal joint are synovial variety of the joint. So over here all the other chondrosternal joint will be of synovial variety. This is important, right? Okay, fine. So this is about the lateral border of the manubrium sterni. Now on the lateral border itself, on the lower part of the lateral border of the manubrium, you will find a demicostal facet. Now what do you mean by demi? Demi means half. So the other half will be found in the manubrium sterni. In the other one half in the manubrium sterni and the other half in the body of the sternum. So that two, at the joining point, this two will form one full costal cartilage. So there is one demicostal cartilage on the lower border of the lateral border, lower part of the lateral border of the manubrium, and the another demicostal facet on the upper part of the lateral border of the body of the sternum. Both together forms a one full costal cartilage. Now this demifacet is articulating with the second chondrocyte, that is your chondral cartilage, and forming the second chondrosternal joint, right? Is that clear? Okay, fine. Now the attachments on the anterior and the posterior surfaces. So on the anterior surface of the manubrium sterni, you have the attachment on the sides of the pectoralis major muscle, and above the pectoralis major muscle, just beneath the sternoclavicular joint, there is the attachment of the sternal head of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Now this facet for the clavicle gives attachment to the, as I already said, which joint? Sternoclavicular joint. So obviously it is giving attachment to the capsular ligament. Now another important part about this jugular notch, the attachment on the jugular notch is the interclavicular ligament. See this over here, this part gives the attachment to the interclavicular ligament, and apart from that it gives attachment to the deep investing layer of the deep cervical fascia. Okay, fine. Now this one, now on the lateral border, see, as we already discussed, right, that the anterior surface is giving attachment to the pectoralis major muscle and the sternocleidomastoid muscle, right. Posterior surface is forming the anterior boundary of the superior mediastina. The posterior surface is also related to the most very important structures such as arch of aorta, brachiocephalic vein, brachiocephalic artery, and the left common carotid artery and all. So the relations of the posterior surface of the sternum, of the manubrium sternum, is important, and apart from that it is also related to the right and the left lung and the pleura respectively, right. Okay, now between the two costal facets, that is the first costal facet and the second demicostal facet, the lateral border gives attachment to what? To the anterior intercostal membrane and the intercostalis internus muscle, right. So what are the attachments on the manubrium sterni? On the anterior surface it is the pectoralis major muscle and the sternocleidomastoid muscle. On the jugular notch it is the interclavicular ligament. With the sternoclavicular joint it gives also attachment to the capsular ligament of that joint, same joint. On the posterior surface it is related, it forms the anterior boundary of the superior mediastina, and apart from that it is related to the arch of aorta, brachiocephalic artery, vein, and left common carotid artery, right. And obviously they're related left and right pleura and lungs. Okay, the lateral border gives attachment to the first chondrosternal joint and a demifacet for the second chondrosternal joint, right. And between this facet it gives attachment to what group? Anterior intercostal membrane and what? The anterior intercostal membrane, and the intercostalis internus muscle. Same goes with the body even. Between the two costal facets, it will give attachment to the anterior intercostal membrane and the intercostalis internus muscle. Between the two costal facets, right, between the two costal facets are always will be an attachment of the anterior intercostal membrane and the intercostalis internus muscle. Okay, fine. Now going into the body. So how will you identify the body, the anterior surface of the body and the posterior surface of the body? So as I already told you that the body has an anterior surface, posterior surface, and the lateral border, upper border, and the lower border. The upper border will be articulating with the manubrium sterni, forming with joint the sternomanubrial joint, which is which variety? It is a secondary cartilaginous variety. Now this is very important, that this joint, the sternomanubrial joint, right, in front anteriorly, right, in front anteriorly, it is somewhat in an angle, right? You can even feel that angle. Why there is an angle? Because the body is somewhat in the vertical direction, but the manubrium is somewhat in a sloping direction, so it forms an angle. This angle is known as the sternal angle of Lewis. This sternal angle of Lewis, this sternal angle of Lewis is at what level? It is at the lower border of the T4 level, and the most important aspect over here is the arch of aorta. This is a theory point of view. I'm telling you that the sternal angle of Lewis is asked as a short note, that you have to mention which are the structures present at the sternal angle of Lewis. Apart from that, as I already told you, that at the lower end of the lateral border of the manubrium, right, and the upper end of the lateral border of the body, right, there are two demicostal facet. Together they form one costal facet. As you can all see, this is a one costal facet, right, forming for which joint? Second chondrosternal joint. Now this second chondrosternal joint means which rib? Second rib. So the angle of Lewis is also important to count the ribs. At the angle of Lewis you will have your second rib, and then as you go down you will have third rib, fourth rib, and so on, right? So this is very important, the sternal angle of Lewis. Okay, and the jugular notch we already discussed, right, or the sternal notch. These two are the bony landmarks for the sternum, which are regularly asked in your surface marking or even in your theory, right? Now the body of the sternum, right? So the body, as I already told you, upper border is articulating with the manubrium sterni, the lower border is articulating with the xiphoid. The articulation with the xiphoid is the primary cartilaginous joint, right? Now the left portion is what? The anterior surface, posterior surface, and the lateral border, right? So the anterior surface, how will you identify it is an anterior surface? So the anterior surface has the transverse ridges present in it. There are total 3 transverse ridges. Now basically what happens is that the sternal body is basically formed by the fusion of 4 sternabri, right? That fusion gives you a transverse ridges. So as you can all see, there will be the presence of this transverse ridges, right? If you are not able to identify, then look at in this one. So these are the transverse ridges, right, present at the anterior surface of the sternum. It is nothing but the fusion of the 4 sternabri, right, to form the body of the sternum, right? And the posterior surface is somewhat concave or it is somewhat flat, right? That is how you identify the anterior and the posterior surface of the body of the sternum. Now the anterior surface, right, in the median line, it is subcutaneous. It is just covered by the skin, subcutaneous tissue, and the periosteum. On the side, like this way, this side, it gives attachment to the pectoralis major muscle. So on the side of the anterior surface of the sternum, of the body of the sternum, there is the attachment of the pectoralis major muscle, right? Now as you can all see, the lateral aspect. Now the lateral aspect has 2 demicostal facets, and 4 full costal facets. Now 4, you can all see, these are the 4 full costal facets. This one superiorly is the demicostal facet for the second chondrosternal joint, and for the 7th one, right, that will be very small. You cannot even appreciate it, right? That is the 7th demicostal facet for the 7th chondrosternal joint, right? Okay, so the full costal facets gives attachment from above downwards to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th chondrosternal joint, and the seventh demicostal facet gives attachment to the seventh and the other corresponding ribs, because as you all know that seventh is a typical, and then from 8, 9th and 10th it will become atypical and gives only one and has only one attachment on the sternum, right? So there are total 4 full costal facets. Full costal facets are 4 for the third, fourth, fifth and sixth costosternal joint, and the second and the seventh one are demifacets. I'm talking about the body, okay? And as I already told you, between the costal facets, it will give attachment to the anterior intercostal membrane over here. See this one. This is the 2 full costal facets, and in between this one, this layer, this lateral border gives attachment to the 2 things, that is the anterior intercostal membrane and the intercostalis internus muscle, right? Now the posterior surface. So the posterior surface is related to the heart and the other parts of the lungs and pleura and everything, right? I forgot to mention one thing about the posterior surface of the manubrium sterni, that the manubrium sterni in the posterior surface just beneath the jugular notch gives attachment to the sternohyoid and the sternothyroid muscle, right? I'm talking about the manubrium sterni, the posterior surface of the manubrium sterni, okay? The relations of the posterior surface of the body of the sternum is important. It is related on the right side to the right lung, right pleura. On the left side, it is related to the left lung, left pleura and the pericardium, right? This is important. Now, the lower end of the body of the sternum, as I already told you, gives articulation with the xiphoid process, that is forming the xiphisternal joint, which is again a primary cartilaginous joint. Another primary cartilaginous joint which we earlier discussed was the first chondrosternal joint, right? Rest all the chondrosternal joints are synovial, mind well. Now the xiphoid process. Now the xiphoid process forms see, this is a very small xiphoid process. This part is a xiphoid process. So sometimes the xiphoid is like this, bifid. Sometimes it is only one, like this, right? Sometimes it is flat, like this, right? So you do not know how the shape of the xiphoid will be, but it can be pointed, it can be bifid, it can be flat, right? There are lots of attachments on the xiphoid process. So the anterior part of the xiphoid process gives the attachment to all the abdominal muscles. In the midline, it gives attachment to the linea alba, right? And as you go laterally, it gives attachment to the aponeurosis of the external oblique, internal oblique, transversus abdominis muscle, and the rectus abdominis muscle. So there are total 4 abdominal muscles, right? In the anterior abdominal wall, you will learn there are 4, right? External, internal obliques, right? And the transversus abdominis and the rectus abdominis. So all the 4 gets attached on the xiphoid process. And in the midline, there will be the attachment of the linea alba, right? The posterior surface of the xiphoid, right? Now this is important. The posterior surface of the xiphoid gives attachment to the, which muscle? The sternal end of the diaphragm. In the manubrium, just above the pectoralis major muscle, we had the origin of the sternal head of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. In the xiphisternum, we have the attachment to the sternal head of the diaphragm. So the posterior surface of the xiphoid gives attachment to the sternal end of the diaphragm muscle, right? Diaphragm is a muscle, mind well. Now, if this sternal end of diaphragm muscle is absent, then you will have a gap between the xiphoid process and the diaphragm, right? Diaphragm is just is attaching over here, right? So if there is no origin of diaphragm over here, so there will be a gap between the xiphoid and the diaphragm. So that gap, the foramen, is known as the foramen of Morgagni, and from that there will be the presence of the what we say, the hernia, which will be you can encounter in that foramen, right? That is the subdiaphragmatic hernia. You can have that surgical condition. Okay, so the sternal origin of diaphragm is important as far as xiphoid is concerned. It is arising from the posterior aspect of the xiphoid. Okay, so this is about the sternum, right? There is the importance is the transverse ridges, the sternabri, right? The formation of that 4 sternabri forming the 3 transverse ridges, as I already told you, right? So this is important, right? Now, other applied aspect of this sternum is that you do sternotomy. Sometimes sternotomy means in the midline you cut the sternum and you open the rib cage, right? That sternotomy is also known as your open heart surgery, right? So sternotomy is nothing but fracturing sternum and opening the sternum, the rib cage or the thoracic cage, to access the mediastinal contents. Apart from that, you do bone marrow aspiration of the sternum, right? This aspiration is done to get the red bone marrow, obviously, right? Now there are certain clinical conditions such as pectus excavatum, right, and the pectus excavatum and rickettsial rosary, right, or the pigeon chest. Now, what is pectus excavatum? Now, pectus excavatum means funnel-shaped chest. When does it occur? Right, when the xiphoid is placed anteriorly, right, and your body is inside the thorax, right. So you can imagine that your xiphoid is in anterior position, right, and the body is deep. It is invaginating the thorax. So what happens is that your heart and lungs will be pushed on the left side, and thereby there will be the shortness of breathing. This is pectus excavatum. Another condition is the pigeon chest or the pectus carinatum. What happens in this is that the opposite of pectus excavatum, that your body of the sternum is placed anteriorly. It will be very anterior, and the rest of the chest is pushed backwards. So you will have a pigeon chest, that your sternum will be very forward. The whole of the sternum will be very forward, and the rest of the chest will be backward. So it appears as like that you have the pigeon, right? If you have seen a pigeon, right? So it appears like that. So it is known as a pigeon chest, right, or the pectus carinatum. Now what happens in pectus carinatum is that this happens basically in the rickets, and if the this costal cartilages gets calcified, right, then it will lead to the bead-like appearance of the thoracic cage anteriorly, and that is known as a rickettsial rosary. That is known as the rickettsial rosary. Now, this all joints which are formed, as I already told you, that the sternomanubrial joint lies at the lower border of the T4 vertebra. The xiphisternal joint lies at the intervertebral disc of T8 and T9 vertebra. These points are very important, right? Okay. So, thank you.